Mr. Secretary, our southern border is not secure, is it?
Senator, I have spoken about this. I believe I've addressed this earlier in the hearing.
Why don't you address it again?
And let me assure you that we are doing so.
It's secure because we're trying to secure it? Are we succeeding?
Senator, we are so focused on the security of our southern border. We are doing so much with respect to the surge. It's caused a 95.
Don't filibuster me.
You've
been doing that all day. I'm just trying to.
I'm just trying to communicate.
All right, that went well. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana with us right now. Senator, two quick things here. A, remind me not to get on your bad side. B, did you get any answers at all there?
Yes. Here's what I learned today. I learned today that either Secretary Mayorkas believes in completely open borders, or he is not qualified to manage a Chuck E. Cheese. Now, he is not incompetent. He is not an unintelligent man. It is clear to me, after listening to the Secretary for about 3, maybe 4 hours, that he believes in open borders. There are 3 simple steps, one of which I asked him about, that could solve 3/4 of our problem tomorrow. He refuses to do any of those 3. I repeat, I have concluded after today, he just believes the border ought to be wide open.
So the 3 things that you think should be done are?
A unilateral safe third country program. If we don't need anybody's permission to say to refugees, if you want to seek asylum, you have to seek asylum in the first safe country other than your own. In most cases, that's Mexico. And if you go through Mexico and don't seek asylum but come to the U.S., we turn you away. Number 2, if you do start in Mexico and seek asylum in the United States, you fill out the paperwork in Mexico and you stay in Mexico until it's time for your court date. Number 3, when you go to court, if you lose, and most asylum seekers do lose, then you are deported immediately, not allowed to stay in the United States permanently. Those 3 things will solve 3/4 of our problem.
It's not so much that the Secretary doesn't realize there's value to even a couple of those points, Senator, but his boss doesn't. That's pretty clear. And his boss, the president, is the one calling the shots, right?
I think there's a lot to that, Neil. But I thought until today that the Secretary was just taking orders, as he should, from his boss, the president. Today, I became convinced that the Secretary honestly believes in open borders. Why? Maybe he and President Biden think that vetting people at the border is racist. I think they're wrong. I think it's prudent. Maybe they think there's some political advantage to allowing all these folks into our country illegally. Maybe they think they'll be grateful and will register to vote and vote for them. I can't look into their heads or their hearts. I can just judge them by their actions. And the president, Secretary Mayorkas, most people in the Biden administration, they're just happy as clams with a wide open border.
Well, I don't know if they're happy as clams because they realize that this is boomeranging as an issue on them, but you might be right. I mean, the response certainly doesn't indicate that, but I'm curious what you make of your Republican colleague in the House, Dan Crenshaw of Texas, who has said, you know, we need to put troops on the border to deal with just the cartels. What do you think of that?
Well, what we ought to do is sit down with President Lopez Obrador in Mexico and convince him to allow our military and civilian law enforcement to come in and work with the police in Mexico, and we could get rid of 90% of those cartels.
I believe he's already
in 6 months.
said no to troops, Senator. Maybe with this distinction you make working with police is one thing. But some are beginning to think that maybe he is under the control of the cartel, as much of Mexico. Do you buy that?
I don't know if that's true or not. I hope not.
Yeah.
Other leadership in Mexico has proven to be. The congressman's idea of putting military at the border, it's better than nothing. But if Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden are not going to let them do their job, because they believe in open borders, it's going to be a waste of time and money for our military.
Finally,
look, these folks just believe in open borders, Neil. Yeah. You know, I mean, at some point, when people act, you know, like they don't care about your concerns, it's no longer an act. They're not acting. They believe in open borders, and they're a little concerned about the politics of it, but they think they can contain the politics of it and just keep that old border open and come on in.
All right. Well, you'll be surprised to hear they say that's not their intention, but we'll see where it goes because it's not improving.
I'm shocked.
Senator, thank you very, very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.